What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video, and if you guys are new, welcome. Now, we know that Titans are eating this season with Prismatic, allowing us to have 3 consecrations is absolutely disgusting. Now, imagine pairing that with the Heart of Inmost Light, as well as the armamentarium, so we have an extra grenade, plus all of our abilities get enhanced damage wise and they respawn faster with this build right here, using our exotic class item, taking advantage of both of those spirits. So first off, Spirit of Inmost Light right here, our ability empowers the other 2 with granting them improved regeneration. Absolutely disgusting with this build, especially since we have the combination right here of Spirit of Armamentarium with that extra grenade charge. Absolutely allows us to spam our abilities with throwing 2 different grenades, having 3 melees, all consecration on there, as well as our shield. We're getting some crazy ability spam, respawn of that, as well as creating a bunch of orbs of power and wiping out ads like no one's business. This GM right here cleared it out with some randos, no mics, head kills, double both of them. Basically insane what this build can do in any type of content. All right, so when we move on to our abilities aspects and fragments, nothing too crazy about it. Using Twilight Arsenal, absolutely love this thing. Getting some buffs as well with that Awakening is super good on this build, especially since we got that Expanding Abyss on our artifact, allowing our void weapons to do pretty gnarly damage on those weakened targets. On top of that, going Powering Barricade, Strafe Lift with, of course, we got Frenzy Blade because we got 3 of them to pair with the Consecration over here, creating that Scorch and Ignitions. With Glacial Grenades, think these are definitely slept on. Blocks a bunch of damage, freezes target, shatter, so it does a bunch of different things, especially in that end game. Very good. On top of that, I have Knockout right here to give us some of our health back and damage and range on those melees. Absolutely juices this build even more than normal. On top of that right here, kind of does the same thing. Facet of Blessing, we get that health regeneration when we get those melee final blows. Well, Transcendent, it gives it to us and our nearby allies, so that's why I threw this on, plus these do stack together. So really big chunk of health that we're getting back every single time we get defeats with those melees, and it's happening almost consistently. Facet of Courage right here, our Arc Solar Void abilities do increase damage affected by those darkness debuffs. One of the reasons why we're using this Glacial Grenade, having double of them, being able to freeze those targets, etc., get that slow on those explosions. Super nice to pair with Courage there. Facet of Ruin right here, Stasis Crystals, frozen targets, as well as those solar ignitions, gonna have bigger AoEs and increased damage of those bursts, so pairs well with everything that we have. Double Consecration, triple Consecration I should say, with those solar ignitions is going to be bigger, as well as the explosions that we get from the crystals themselves, as well as the targets that we freeze from them. On top of that, Facet of Awakening right here, rapidly defeating those targets with light, darkness, or our super, grant us elemental pickups of the matching types, so we have the potential to get almost every single type of elemental pickup that we can. Fire Sprite, Ionic, Void Breaches, Stasis Shards, and Tangles, all from this build depending on how you use it. Like I said, I already went over the Facet of Blessing, with last but not least, Facet of Protection gives us that damage resistance when we are surrounded, while Transcendent increase effectiveness, so we are getting in there hot and heavy, being like a Titan should on the front lines, being able to get Transcendent super fast with this build because we're going stasis on those grenades and some of our weapon abilities that we got, as well as for the double triple consecration that we got. Absolutely juices the light side of this, so it is super disgusting, the synergy of this build and how much we can spam our abilities, freeze targets, ignite them, stun all kinds of champions, as well as just wipe out ads in that highest game content. Now right here for our stats that I went into, definitely built it out number 1 for my resilience, discipline, and strength, with recovery as high as I could. For my 4th one, this will help us to stay alive in that end game, plus with Titans this gives us our shield, discipline obviously gives us our grenades, strength gives us our melee, so just allowing us to spam those abilities even more often. On top of that, hands-on, we're getting our super back pretty quickly because we're basically just spamming melees consistently. Those consecrations are getting defeats, so we're getting that super very quickly. Special ammo finder for our fusion that we are using with Harmonic Siphon, using 2 void weapons as well on this. Also adding to the ability spam of this build, momentum and impact induction right here, giving us our grenade cooldown back as well as our melee cooldown back when we are using the other abilities. So when we do damage damage with our grenade, get our melee, damage with our melee, get our grenade, a lovely little thing. Even more orbs of power that we're creating with heavy-handed right here, since we're getting a bunch of those defeats with our melee. Anyways, we're able to proc both of these pretty consistently, giving us more orbs and giving us our super. For that GM that I went with sniper resistance, arc resistance, void, totally up to you what you want on your chest piece. You can switch these out for literally whatever you want based on the content you are going into. When we move on to our boots, for me, I went with void weapon surge with that time dilation because we're using a heavy as well as a pulse rifle to deal with those champions, plus just helps us in that end game competition. With recuperation, powerful attraction bomber helps us to get our health back, our grenade back, and then just everything nearby us with those orbs of power automatically get collected, so that armor charge is getting procced as well as recuperation just by throwing down our shield, and we're getting it consistently like this build because of the ability, empowerment, and spam that we're getting with our mods, our abilities, our aspects, our fragments. It's absolutely disgusting what this build does in endgame content. You feel like you can't die because of that health regen. We're wiping out ads like it's no one business, playing that support with those grenades as well so we can throw them down, block damage, get a res, whatever it may be, freeze targets, keep them off of us. It is absolutely disgusting. Now when we move on to weapons, I went right here with the Riptide. Has that shield clip heating up on it. Shield clip allows us to stun overload and unstoppables, plus it pairs with that solar synergy like I was talking about on the prismatic subclass to create us some of those stasis shards, etc. Right here we got graviton lance with edge transit, both of our void weapons getting that buff from the void weapon surge on our boots. Right here, obviously very good for that damage. Vorpal weapon we got on this bad boy stuns our barrier champion, so between these two we got all of our champions taken care of. Plus this is just very good with the void subclass, that's why we got it on with our prismatic titan and that nice twilight arsenal. As transit, envious, bait and switch, juicy damage. Basically all this is here for getting us through that end game, being able to do the most damage on any boss or any champion that we really run into. Last but not least, we got our little hunter's journal right here. Anti-barrier pulse is what we are using on this bad boy with the energy counter right here, so we're getting those stun on champions, getting us our ability spam back even faster like we have been already. Elemental charge right here, giving us those elemental charge mods, getting a little decrease so we can stack them even more. Picking up all those orbs of powers that we are getting. This should actually be the solar version, not the arc, so that is my bad, but we're getting radiant on all of those orb pickups as well, being able to do more damage on those enemies, etc. Plus it pairs right here inside of the solar ignitions that we're creating. It is crazy what we can do with those consecrations and the ignitions already stacking because of facet of rune as well as the solar fumation. With last but not least, of course, we got the expanding abyss giving us that damage increase on those weakened targets. Specifically, we are getting that from our super, and then shield crush when we have any of these in our buffs, if you will. Amplified radiant, woven mail, frost armor, overshield, we're getting our melee or grenade back. So again, just feeding right back into the ability spam of this build. We're getting a bunch of different elemental pickups depending on what we are using. We're becoming amplified with this build, we're becoming radiant with this build, we have overshield with this build. It is absolutely disgusting what you can do in any type of content. Like I was saying, here's a little part of the end where it shows that I got just as many defeats as both of my fellow teammates put together with almost twice the amount of orbs created. We barely died at all as a squad. Had to get a couple reses with those stasis grenades that I got, throwing them down, blocking the damage, keeping enemies at bay. But when you are getting that transcendent as fast as you are, being able to spam the abilities like we are, it is basically all you're doing. You're hardly ever using your weapons really, except maybe on some of those bosses, champions. But at that point, that's where our void damage surge comes into play. We're juicing them there. That's where our expanding abyss comes into play, as well as that super just in general with twilight arsenal being able to keep weakening up almost consistently after it hits because we can throw those 3 axes again. Love this build. Definitely very fun. Definitely a lot of Titan builds obviously are going to be using this triple consecration, but there's nothing else in my personal opinion on the Titan for the prismatic side that plays nearly as well. That is definitely the go-to and is going to be meta until it gets nerfed. So hopefully you guys enjoy these kinds of videos. I appreciate all that support lately. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out, helps the channel out a bunch as well. Slap that bell so you get all the notifications on the channel for these guides right here, as well as some god rules that we put out on the channel as well. So appreciate you guys. Titans, definitely check this bad boy out. Hop on into the Discord for some other builds, for some friendly little banter in there. And again, I appreciate all you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.